In this video, we are gonna go over tips on how to nail your next FTP test and why FTP is so important. Now let's talk about FTP before we get into our tips. FTP stands for functional threshold power. What that means is that is the maximum amount of power that you can sustain over an hour distance. Now, why is FTP so important though? Well, FTP is the industry standard on how to set your training zones, that you can be specific when you train with power or heart rate so that you know that you're in the proper zone. It also is a great baseline for where your current fitness is so that you can see what you're doing and whether it's working or not working. You can also use this number to strategize or to determine pace during a race so that you don't go too hard or you don't go hard enough. So that's why FTP is so important. So let's go over some tips. Tip number one, you want to go into the test rested. You want to treat this almost as like a race. We definitely want to get the most accurate number. And so I tell my athletes, and for myself, to basically go in there, rested like you're racing a taper week, even a rest week. The other thing that can help too is stress. You want to make sure that you don't have a stressful weekend. That could be work stress, that could be family stress. You want to keep stress levels as low as possible. I know that's hard if you have a full-time job and a full-time family, but try to keep those to a minimum because stress can really affect the test. Next tip is the setup. You definitely want to have a great setup. You want to make sure you have a fan, that you have the application that you're going to run the test on, and that your equipment is all dialed in. You don't necessarily have to have a power meter to perform the test. You can use a heart rate monitor also, but you want to make sure everything's in order. Having a nice clean space is definitely a plus and will make your results accurate. You also want to make sure your equipment is working properly, and a fan is ideal. You want to have ideal conditions when performing the FTP test. Putting your body in those ideal conditions will maximize the results and give you the most accurate results. Tip number three, motivation. Ask your local tri friends or your cycling friends to come over and help you perform this test. You need all the motivation you can. These tests are not easy, and so mentally you need the help. In my case, I happen to like to live stream my FTP test to the community here locally so that people can give me words of encouragement and push me along. It really truly does help, and I highly encourage you to either have someone do the test with you or have someone there yelling in your ear to keep on going. Tip number four, pacing properly. I don't know how many times I have to say this. Don't go too hard. Don't go too hard. Don't go too hard. Everyone does it. We all go too hard at the start, thinking that we are, 100 watts higher than we were last time. It's the biggest mistake everyone makes. They go out way too hard to just sizzle and fall. So what you want to do is, if this was your line here, you want to maintain as much of the same power throughout the whole test. So if your FTP is say 200, or that's what you're shooting for, you want to try to remain around 200 the whole test, having a gradual increase which would be perfect. But it is hard, and it does take lots of tests to learn, and still the thousands of tests we've performed, it's very rare that we have someone do it perfect. Okay, my last tip number 5, accuracy. You want to, when you perform an FTP test, you want to have it as accurate as possible. And in doing so, just like any laboratory test, you want to keep your conditions ideal and you want to keep your conditions the same. And I mean, you want to eat the same meal in the morning. You want to make sure if you had caffeine last test that you have caffeine this test, and so forth. You want to make sure if you had 2 fans that you continue to have 2 fans. It might be overkill, but it keeps your results consistent and accurate. The other thing too is cadence. Do what you're used to doing outside. If you're an 80 cadence, do an 80 cadence during the test or shoot for that. Don't change your cadence based off of the FTP test, because when you go outside and you change your cadence up, the results might be different. So keep everything as similar and as consistent as possible every test. I personally don't like to use caffeine during my tests. This is how I've always done it, so I tend not to do it. But try to just always keep it consistent for accuracy. So let's review our tips. First, there was the rest, taper, and stress. Second tip was the setup, making sure you have a fan, your trainer, application, and one I forgot was even music. Have that all set up and ready to go. Third was motivation. Make sure you invite a friend over or live stream your test and just get some positive vibes from your friends to mentally keep you going. Fourth was the pacing strategy. Come up with a strategy that works for you. But again, don't go out too hard, don't go out too hard, don't go out too hard. And fifth was keeping the results accurate by maintaining your consistency in your training. Keep the cadence the same, your environmental factors the same, and if you have caffeine or don't have caffeine, keep those consistent so you have an accurate test. Okay, I hope you liked this video. I hope these tips help you on your next FTP test. Tell us ideas that you do. Tell us things that help you with your FTP test. We'd love to hear and share these with our subscribers. So put it down in the comments and let us know what works and doesn't work for you. All right, this is Coach Duckworth. I'm signing out. If you want to see the FTP test I performed, you can click over here and watch the whole video. In no means am I perfect, and I've done these, over 20 to 30 times. So you just got to keep practicing, refining your skills, and keep at it. If you like these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. We're gonna make more, and we'd love to share these with you.